The wind carried a sound that didn't belong to the desert. Corbin Thatch stopped in his tracks. His boots sank into the red dust of Tau Ceti Prime, the lonely planet he called home. He was used to silence. He hadn't seen another human in 5 years. The only things that made noise out here were wind, sand, and machines, nothing else. But this sound was different. It was soft, almost gentle, but it had weight. It's like something swinging. He turned toward the dry canyon near the edge of his ranch then. He saw it. A body was hanging from an old dead tree, a thin shape, arms limp, hair swinging in the wind like a loose rope. It wasn't a full-grown person. It looked smaller, like a child. Corbin's stomach turned. His heart started to pound as he walked closer. The figure hanging from the branch was a girl. He froze. Her skin was red-brown, dry like clay. Her eyes were closed, and a piece of rough cloth was tied around her mouth. Her hair was braided with small beads, the way old Terran tribes used to wear it. Around her neck, a wooden sign hung with burned-in words. "White man don't forgive." Corbin stared at the sign for a long time. His hand shook as he reached for his knife. He stepped up onto a rock, cutting the rope slowly. The girl dropped into his arms, light as a bird. Her chest was rising barely. She was alive. But just barely. He whispered, "You're not going to die today, girl." He carried her back to his cabin, past old fences and broken robots that hadn't worked in years. The sun was setting behind the hills. Twin moons were starting to rise. Inside, he laid her gently on his cot and poured water onto a cloth. He wiped the dirt and blood from her face. She looked human, almost, but not completely. Her eyes opened for a second, golden and slit like a cat's. Then she passed out again. He sighed. Vorakai. He muttered, one of the native species from this planet. Once proud, now almost gone, Corbin knew that he had helped make it happen. Years ago, before the ranch, before the silence, he was a soldier. Earth had sent him and hundreds of others to take this planet. They were told the Vurakai were dangerous. But when he saw them, they weren't fighters. They were tribes. They sang 2 stars. They lived in the rocks and knew every tree, every crack in the land. The war wasn't fair. One day Corbin walked away from it. He deserted, found this place far from everything. He never went back. But now, the war had found him again. The girl didn't speak at first. For days, she just watched him with sharp eyes. She flinched whenever he came close. She didn't eat unless he left the room. Corbin didn't press her. He left food, water, and space. On the 4th night, he woke to find her standing at the door. Holding one of his old pistols, she aimed it at him, hands shaking. He raised his hands slowly. "Ain't loaded, kid. Safety's on." She stared at him. Her voice was dry, cracked, and rough. "Why? Help?" He didn't answer right away. He looked out the window at the stars. "You were gonna die out there," he said simply. "I ain't the man I used to be." Her hands lowered. She dropped the gun. Then, without a word, she sat by the fire and ate. As days passed, she began to speak more. Her name was Kana Salira. She was 14 or close to it. She had escaped a Terran patrol weeks ago. Her village was gone burned by soldiers who believed the Vurakai still hid weapons. They didn't. All they had were songs and old maps carved in stone. "They said we were dangerous," she whispered one night, "but we only wanted to live." Corbin didn't speak. She stared at him. "You're one of them, a white man," as Corbin said. "Maybe I still am. But I'm also a man who's tired of burying the truth." She looked at him like she didn't understand. Or maybe she didn't want to believe it. One morning, she walked outside to find him fixing a broken drone. She asked, "Why do you live alone?" Corbin didn't look up. "Because sometimes people like me don't deserve company." Anna sat down beside him. "You saved me." "Maybe I was saving myself," he said, "by doing one thing right." That night, she stood at the tree where she had almost died. The wind was soft again. The rope was still there, now hanging loose. She stared at it. Corbin stepped beside her. You don't have to forgive, he said quietly. She looked up at him. I don't know if I can. I wouldn't expect you to, he replied. Then they both stood there under the twin moons, without a word. Something broken had not been fixed, but something new had begun. Kana had been told all her life that white men didn't cry. But this one, he didn't just cry, he shook when he did. She saw it once. Late at night, he thought she was asleep. But she wasn't. She watched as Corbin sat by the fire, head in his hands, silent tears rolling down his face. No sound, just quiet pain. The same kind of pain her people carried. Maybe deeper, maybe older. That was the night she stopped trying to run away. Weeks passed. The girl and the old man shared meals, stories, silence. She asked him about the stars. He told her names of places she'd never see Earth. Mars, the frozen rings of Europa. She told him about the blood memories of her people, how they sang before they died, how each warrior's name was carried in the wind for generations. One day, she found an old message device buried in a crate. You ever send a call home? She asked. Corbin laughed without joy. Ain't no home to call. She looked at him. Everyone has a home. Maybe. But some of us burned ours down on the way out. Then trouble came. It arrived on Loud Engines 3, sturdy ships kicking up red dust like devils crawling across the land. Corbin knew those kinds of ships. Military dropships, but not clean. Marked with rust, bones, and old flags from the earth. Wars. Terran remnant militia. The worst kind. Not soldiers anymore, just killers, looking for old enemies to finish. Corbin hid Kana in the storm shelter and opened the gate. 5 men stepped out. Rough beards, metal arms. Dead Eyes, their leader, wore a patch on one eye and a knife at each hip. Corbin Thatch, the leader said. Didn't think you were still breathing? Still am? Corbin said. Barely. The man sniffed the air. Smells like Virakai around here. Corbin didn't blink. Wind carries strange smells. The man smiled. You seen any of 'em lately? Not in years? A long pause. Then the leader stepped close. You always were soft. Corbin smiled back. And you were always a bastard. They searched the property. Kana stayed hidden, holding her breath for what felt like hours. When the hatch finally opened and Corbin dropped down, she knew something had changed. They know, he said. They didn't find you. Be back. She didn't ask what he planned to do. He handed her a gun. That night, they moved fast. Corbin had a canyon nearby narrow, full of sharp rocks and blind turns, a good place for a trap. He taught her how to take cover, how to aim, how to listen for boots in the sand. She learned quickly. Her eyes were sharp, her hands steady. You sure about this? Corbin asked. Kana didn't answer. She only whispered, I won't run again. Remnant came back at dawn. This time, they didn't knock. They came shooting. Corbin and Kana were already hidden behind the rocks. As the ships landed, explosions rocked the canyon. Lasers hit stone. Smoke filled the air. Corbin fired with cold skill. Kana moved like a ghost, quiet and fast. She took out the scout with one clean shot. Corbin saw her face afterward. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just reloaded. The fight lasted less than an hour, 4 men dead. 1 ship burning, only the leader survived, crawling through dust. Bleeding from a broken leg, Corbin walked up to him, shotgun in hand. You brought war to my home, he said. The man spat. You were always a coward, no, Corbin said. Softly, I was tired. He raised the gun. But before he could fire, Kana stepped forward. Let me. Corbin looked at her for a long time. Then he handed her the gun. She didn't shoot him. She simply turned and walked away. The man stared at her in silence. Corbin followed her out of the canyon. Back at the ranch, the fire crackled low. Kana sat by the window, watching the stars. Corbin poured water into 2 cups. You didn't kill him, he said. She nodded. Why? She looked at him. Because I didn't want to become like them. Corbin smiled. That's a good reason. She sipped the water and said, I want to build something. A signal. A call. So others know there's still hope. He nodded. I've got old parts. We can build it. They worked for days. A small tower from scrap metal and memory chips. She wrote a message in 3 languages: Virakai, Apache, and Earth Common. If you can hear this, you are not alone. There is still one place that remembers who we were. She signed it with her name and his. One evening, she painted something on the barn wall. The old sign, White Man Don't Forgive. But beneath it, in bold black letters, she added, But one did remember. Corbin saw it. He didn't say anything. He just tipped his hat and kept walking, far away on another moon. A signal blinked, and somewhere in the stars, a lost tribe heard it.